this is Mr. Jarrett. In this video tutorial, you are going to learn about smart dimensioning and geometric relations. So start out by opening up this file. If you go to File, Open in SOLIDWORKS, and find your TechDraw 1 folder, and in your Unit 1 folder, you will find a file called Smart Dimensioning and Geometric Relations. Now, when you open that, it's going to look like this. And it is going to be slightly different than maybe what you have seen before in your previous SOLIDWORKS experiences. That is because this is a drawing file. So for instance, if I were to start a new file, you see here that SOLIDWORKS has three different file types. Normally, we will be drawing in part files. This example is actually done in a drawing file just to kind of show you the different tools in a different way. But they all do the exact same thing. So we need to be on our first tab, which is the Smart Dimensioning tab. And up here, you'll find a whole bunch of different tabs. Okay, the Annotation tab, which means to add a note or label, is the tab we want to be on. The Smart Dimension button is up here in the top left. You'll notice underneath the Smart Dimension button, there is a whole bunch of different options that you can choose. But just the normal Smart Dimension button itself does all of these at the same time. So we are not going to change tools at all. We're just going to be on this one. I'm going to zoom in by scrolling down on my mouse on the little wheel. And each one of these tells us a different set of directions that we're just going to follow. So this one says dimension the width of the line. You can simply do that by clicking on the line, moving your mouse out, clicking again to place that dimension, and then hitting the green check. So notice there were 3 clicks there. You clicked on the line, you didn't click and hold, you just clicked on it. You clicked to place the dimension, and then you click the green check when you're finished. Now, if you wanted to actually change this dimension, you could click on that or double click, and the same modify box pops up. So we clicked that green check originally just to accept its current measurement. But if you were to ever change this, say to like 2 inches, and hit the green check, notice the dimension tool not only measures the length of the line, it can also modify the length of the line. Okay, so we measured the length of the line, which is the width here, just by clicking on it. So I'm going to zoom out and zoom into my next option. Remember, that is the scroll wheel on my mouse. This one says dimension the vertical distance between the 2 horizontal lines. So I'll just click on one horizontal line, click on the other one, and then notice I can place the measurement in between. So this is to show you here, and of course hit the green check, but this is to show you here that you can not only dimension a single line, but you could use this to measure the distance in between 2 lines. Okay, so zooming out, zooming into the next one. This says dimension the vertical distance between A and B. So the endpoints, this little asterisk or star, that is a dot. So if I select that dot and select this other dot, notice I once again can put a measurement in between there. So the Smart Dimension tool allows you to click on lines. It allows you to click on double lines or 2 different lines. It allows you to click on endpoints or dots, whatever you want to call them. And it also allows you, like in this number 4 here, it allows you to select a dot or endpoint and a line. So there's multiple different ways of using this tool to find the distance between 2 individual points. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out and go down here. The number 5 is one of those things that you may use here and there, but not all the time. This says create an aligned dimension, So if you're breaking that word down, it's in line with, that's kind of what that is. It's an aligned dimension to identify the length of the angled line. So you'll normally be using this with angled lines. So if I clicked on this line and I move my mouse straight out to the right, notice this isn't actually measuring the length of the line. This was measuring the height from one end dot to the other. And if I move my mouse straight up, notice this once again is not the length. This is actually the width from one end dot to the other. If I moved out on an angle, however, and I got that 1.25, that is the length of the line. So I'm clicking to place and hitting the green check. Okay, so that's an align dimension. Now, if you have a complete circle, it's going to be shown different ways, but from one side of the circle all the way through the middle to the other is called the diameter. So if I select the circle, notice not the middle point, the circle, it's going to show this in a couple different ways. If I have the measurement on the inside, those dimension arrows point from one side of the circle to the other. If I move straight out, sometimes it just goes from the very top of the circle to the very bottom. And if I go on an angle, sometimes it changes to what's called a leader line. Either way there, if I click and place this and hit the green check, you see that symbol. That is the diameter symbol, meaning you have a complete circle and it's measuring from one side to the other. Number 7. This is not a complete circle, so it's actually called an arc or a curve, whatever you want to call that. But when you only have a half or not complete circle, you get the measurement called radius. Radius is from the center out to the edge. So if I select this circle, notice it shows the same way with the leader line. And if I click to place this and hit the green check, you see the difference here in measurements. So this is the diameter symbol, but for radius, they use an R. So they don't use a D for diameter, they just use that symbol. Radius, however, is an R. Okay? And if you double the radius, you actually have the diameter of this if it was a complete circle. Number 8 is showing you that you can actually dimension this to find the angles as well. So if we select one line and select the other, you notice it gives us a degrees in between there. So it's the degrees of this angle. So the Smart Dimension tool does a lot of things. So if we come down to number 9, this one says using the bottom left corner as the origin. Remember, the origin is like the 0, 0 spot. So we're saying right here, dimension the width and the height of the rectangle. So width is going left and right. So if I select this line right here and click to place, notice it's measuring from the left side all the way to the right side. So that's the width, and the height of it, if I click this line and move out to place, that's measuring from the bottom, which in this case we said was the origin, all the way up to the top. Then dimension the location of the center of the circle within the rectangle. So a lot of you might think you have to click on this dot, but SOLIDWORKS is smart enough that if you just click on the circle itself and one of the lines, it finds that center dot. So that is the width of it, and the height of it, clicking the bottom line and the circle, that is the height of it. So that's its location. Lastly, identify the diameter of the circle. We'll just click on the circle and place it. Okay. So coming over to number 10. Number 10 is the exact same thing. If you want to do number 10, you can. I'm going to skip it here. It's basically just telling you to measure from the left to each one of these dots. And it's very similar to what we just did over here. So I'm going to move now to the Geometric Relations tab down here just by clicking on it.